The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I start, allow me to extend happy belated Mother's Day to all the women in the Bahamas throughout the world, and especially the ladies here in Parliament, including yourself, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable
Happy
Member.
belated Mother's Day. Don't worry about you fathers. Madam Speaker, I rise today to make my contribution to this compendium of financial services bill. And I rise on behalf of the great constituency of Kalani. Tourism is our main sector, which is responsible for the vast majority of jobs and economic activity in our country. The Bahamas has the most dynamic tourism economy in the region, though we are falling behind in stopover visitors with no serious plan in place to address this critical issue. We have a robust financial services sector, too, that provides many well-paying jobs. And I support these amendments in as much as they help our financial services sector, which is the second biggest industry in our economy. From time to time, the government has to modify legislation in the sector via financial bills to ensure we are compliant with our international and domestic obligations as a reputable jurisdiction. As a responsible country and Parliament, we try to comply with what are best and norms around the world. We also seek to ensure the domestic financial services industry is well functioning. This is the case when both parties are in office. Both sides try to protect our financial service sector. Nonetheless, we have had challenges over the past 2 decades. There have been several efforts against our industry by developed countries. They want more tax revenue from their citizens and businesses. They want more control over the money held by individuals and companies in jurisdictions such as the Bahamas. We have had to withstand effort after effort with shifting requirements that all seem to have the purpose of forcing small countries like ourselves out of the financial service sector. It is not fair. It is not fair. The argument from the developing countries is that we are a jurisdiction through which taxes and responsible financial practices can be avoided. And this is not true. This is not true. Both parties, while in office, have had to deal with the threat from developed countries, including that of blacklisting. I support these bills to strengthen our financial services and finance regimes and help us avoid sanctions from the rich countries. It is important that the governing party and Parliament act as quickly as possible when deficiencies are noticed in our laws. We do not want outsiders to look at the Bahamas and argue that we are not living up to our responsibilities. They would use any deficiency noticed to put us on some list, threatening to harm our country and our economy. The blacklisting periods were painful episodes that required our leaders, every leader, including myself, to travel around the world to protect our economy. FNM and PLP administrations have had to battle in international fora to ensure the Bahamas gets off the various negative lists we have been put on from time to time. Madam Speaker, we debate the compendium of financial bills with the hope of making the Bahamas a better place in which to do business. And this Parliament has acted many times recently to try to please the developed countries so that our financial services industry avoids sanctions. This Parliament acted, for example, in a preemptive fashion to please the developed nations through the passage of the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Bill 2024. And via this bill, the Bahamas implemented a corporate income tax. This is something we resisted over the years. Our competitiveness used to be based on being a jurisdiction without such taxes. In announcing this corporate income tax initiative in February of last year, the Office of the Prime Minister noted it is, quote, a significant measure under the OECD's Pillar 2 tax framework aimed at ensuring multiple enterprises operating within the Bahamas pay their fair share of taxes, end quote. The proposed 15% corporate income tax targets multinational enterprises with annual turnovers exceeding 750 million euros. With that bill, the government sought to get on board with the global push to ensure corporations pay at least a 15% income tax. The government projects this new tax will bring in approximately $140 million per year. I hope that these bills we intend to pass now help to satisfy the developed countries. I hope it does. My fear is that despite our best efforts, they will want more. And I'm not talking about PLP best efforts. I'm not talking about F&M best effort. I'm talking about the Bahamas' best efforts. In spite of what we do, they will come back requesting more. It has been my experience that they consistently move the goalposts when it comes to small, developing countries who are part of the global financial services sector. Complying with this will not stop them from viewing some other part of our sector as problematic. This is the difficulty we face, trying to survive in financial services. Nonetheless, we must keep trying, and we will be back again with more amendments that they will require. The Davis administration will need to be watchful for the next move and continue to defend the Bahamas' right to be part of the global financial services sector. We must protect those thousands of well-paying Bahamian jobs in the sector. Madam Speaker, it is necessary for me to comment on another matter of national importance. It is obvious from the recent fires that have taken place in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and across the Family Islands that our National Fire Service response is not where it needs to be. The government conceded this by announcing they are ordering 15 to 20 new fire trucks. It is disturbing that it took the major fire on Bay Street to finally move this government to make this announcement. But I caution that announcements are not the same as action. This government is expert at announcing things. They are mostly a failure when it comes to action and follow-through. There is still no international airport in Freeport. Where is the new major healthcare facility they announced for New Providence? They like to cut ribbons big fanfare, even as they fail to deliver basic public services. Madam Speaker, I was happy to hear about the contract signing soon to be for the hotel in Grand Bahama. And it would please me and please the average Bahamian, if not all, if this were to materialize, because it would be good for Grand Bahama and be good for the Bahamian people. So we don't necessarily just are negative all the time. We're happy. We want you to succeed. When you succeed, the Bahamas succeed. When the Bahamas succeed, a rising tide lifts all boat. We all do well, right? I suggest more needs to be done than just ordering fire trucks based on the government panicking after their failure in regards to services. A national assessment is needed as to the full needs of our fire services across the country. How many new fire trucks do we need in total for the whole country? Do we have enough trained firefighters? Are our fire services on Family Island populated with the necessary number of trained people? These are questions. And volunteers, especially given the many wildfires and hot summer months ahead, especially with global warming. Is our water main network working to ensure firefighters have water when they go to fires? Do our firefighters need more training to bring them up to date with modern firefighting equipments? These are just some questions that need to be answered. We need to ensure that our fire services can handle the worst case scenario on each of our main inhabited islands. Here on New Providence, there are multiple hotels. And God forbid, if any were affected by fire, do we have the facilities to reach that level? Madam Speaker, I just want to say a little about the fires. The system that we have in place now has been the system in place for more than 150 years. And from time to time, and that was the appropriate system that needed in an archipelagic nation with so many different islands. Each cannot have a fire department as well as police. In 1977, when Grand Bahama's fire department opened, it was discussed at that time whether you should have a fire department separate from police department. And in 77, it was decided that for the Bahamas, it would be better to keep them both together for economic reason and supplies and manpower reasons. And that was appropriate at that time. And when we came in office, we likewise had looked at that same scenario, but changing the system to a dual fire department as well as police. In the 80s, when we were faced with massive crime and criminal activities, most of the manpower within the fire department who were police trained were brought and pulled into the police sector so as to improve and increase the numbers of policemen available to fight the criminal activities. But we never sourced or increased the complement of the fire department. And in fact, I think the last complement or hiring within the fire department was about the year 2000. So they would only get one or two from the police department. So basically this matter has been discussed repeatedly, and we have, through criminal activities, rather than increasing the complement of the fire department as well as the police department, we concentrate on the police department and remove the firemen to the police department, thus depleting it. And that is why it's essential that we separate the two at this time, but again, you cannot, you must have proper facility, manpower, etc. within the fire unit. Unless that is done, if we try to deplete it, then we will have similar problems again. Madam Speaker, many are now beginning to question the Bahamas National Statistics Institute recent advanced estimates on GDP growth in 2024. I wish to briefly quote what the Shadow Minister of Finance had to say about this. And I just want to quote, Madam Speaker. But you never question the results of the Statistics Department. However, you can ask questions because governments must remember that they represent not the PLP, not the FNM, but they represent all of us. And if I question their integrity, then someone else can question it. But they're working for all of us, and they're doing the best they can under the circumstances. But Madam Speaker, he stated, the BNSI says the economy grew by 3.4% last year, but most Bahamians are wondering who is actually feeling it. He went on to say, a deeper look at the data shows a significant statistical discrepancy of 413 million, equal to roughly 3% of our total GDP, and nearly the size of the reported growth itself. This raises important questions about accuracy and accountability that we intend to address in the days ahead, end quote. The Shadow Minister of Finance also asked the compelling question, quote, so again, we ask if the economy is truly growing, who is benefiting? Because it certainly isn't the single mother stretching her last dollar or the small business owner chasing government payments. It isn't the young Bahamian trying to find affordable housing or the family island residents still waiting for basic services. I agree with the member for East Grand Bahama. Bahamians aren't feeling this supposed growth, which is higher than even what the IMF had estimated. And this discrepancy needs to be carefully looked at and, if necessary, to be revised if there are statistical error. This is a serious matter that needs to be addressed for the sake of accountability and accuracy. Madam Speaker, these are just questions posed, and I would table the document with the questions that were posed by the member for East Grand Bahama. Kalani has nothing else to offer at this point, but I just want to remind, I told you it's non-contentious. I just want to remind the member for South Eleuthera, the minister responsible for works, water and sewage, and he's responded, water and sewage has dug up the West Bay corridor just east of Kiskadee, just before you reach Travelers, and they've done this about 3 weeks ago. They've never come back to repair it, and it's causing cars to swerve out, and just this morning we had an accident. It's causing problems. It would be nice. We've tried it. We had it working to a point, and it would be my recommendation that you ensure that it works. Water and sewage inform and the road repair unit that when they do such work, that immediately afterward or as soon as possible, I know they want to make sure that there's no leaks or whatever, but as soon as possible, they can have the repair team come and repair the roads. And even if they can't do that, at least put proper cones around the hole or the damaged area so that vehicles would be able to see the cone. And I know, so that my constituency would know, that you cannot go there today to repair because of the rain, and one has to wait for the surface and the inner elements to dry. And therefore, I hope my constituents would understand that your department cannot repair it at this time or over the next few days, not until it's dried. Because if you embark on a repair work at this time, within 24 hours, it would just fall apart. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member.